I'm going to share a story about how my heart was almost broken, how it got fixed, and why this week is so important to me. My name is Holly Overton. I'm a TV writer and novelist living in Los Angeles, and I'm also a mom to 5-year-old identical triplets. And 5 years ago this week, my middle triplet, Annie, had open heart surgery. Now, if you were a parent, you can only imagine the shock of having to have your baby have surgery. And we found out when Annie was a week old. We had just come home from the NICU. We were exhausted. We were just going to eat and rest, and then we'd be back the next day when the neonatologist called. And I knew it wasn't good news since we had just spoken to her. And basically, she told us that Annie had what is called a VSD, a ventricular septal defect, which is essentially a hole in the heart. And usually it's not a big deal. Our other two girls, Lucy and Daisy, actually also had VSDs, but Annie's was, as the doctors would say over and over again in their medical jargon, a very large VSD, which meant she had to have surgery. The issue was they wanted her to be bigger. They wanted her to be at least 7 pounds, which meant she had to gain 5 pounds, which, I mean, for anyone who wants to gain weight, that's a lot, but especially for a newborn baby who gets tired even just eating or existing. And so there were so many obstacles. I was so upset. I'd already been through this like super stressful pregnancy. It was COVID, and now I had this, and I wasn't sure I could take it. Like, I just literally felt like my heart was breaking. But then I would like hold Annie, this like perfect, sweet, cuddly baby. And I would be like, if she's fighting, I'm going to keep fighting. And so, she kept gaining weight. We decided to move her to a new hospital that, had a better cardiac unit, which wasn't the best decision because, yes, the cardiac unit was great, but the way the rooms were structured, she ended up being alone more often. Like, the nurses were obviously observing her, but it wasn't like a big, space where everybody was close by, and we couldn't be there every day because we had like 2 babies at home who we also had to care for, and my husband had to work. So it was just so hard to like leave her there and know she was there. And then we get there, and one of the nurses casually mentions that like they want her to be 12 pounds. And I was like, wait, what? Like, the record scratch moment, like, you're joking. I like freaked out. I like emailed everyone. I called was like, I need to meet. And I got a meeting with like the surgical team and the surgeon and the administrators. And I had done all this research, and I was like, I know she needs to be bigger, but like the developmental delays, her in a bed for like 5 more months, like what will that do to her? Away from her family, away from her triplet sisters. And then I asked the question, and this was like a very scary question, but I was like, can you operate on a 7-pound baby? And the doctor was like, of course, I operate on 2-pound babies. Like, if she wasn't stable, we would take her in tomorrow. Like, she is stable. And he admitted all the things that I brought up were concerns. And he said, if you want to do it, we can do it. And that is a moment that like I really took in. Like, if I push for the surgery and something goes wrong, like I have to live with that. But the surgery went great. Annie came through. She did have a complication after where they like scratched her vocal cords. I mean, it was just something that happens when you do the intubation for the heart surgery. And that was very dramatic, and we had to like get that fixed. But Annie pulled through, and now here we are, 5 years later. My girl is so strong. She is like a monkey bar legend. She's so sweet. She's so kind. She's like the biggest helper, and just, she loves to cuddle. I joke it's because she was like the middle triplet and she was squished. So she just always needs to be squeezed. But I will take all those squeezes and all those cuddles. And really, like, Annie just always reminds me that like, and like as a storyteller, like, no matter how hard things seem, no matter how hard the journey, you've got to keep fighting. You've got to just like roll with the punches and the obstacles, and you got to keep believing, because great things can happen. My heart was healed, and this week we are celebrating her Heartaversary, and I am just so grateful and so happy that she's here with us and that we both fought and we did it together.